Silent Hill: The Short Message attempts to tell a compelling story to a mostly teen demographic, while retconning some of the series' roots, introducing witchcraft to the series, more on that later, but also pushing a new Silent Hill phenomenon idea which has fans really mixed on. Konami are trying to capture a new audience with a relatable struggle in the modern era, but it's the delivery of their narrative that feels far from authentic. For reference, it was written by this man. More on that later too. There is some good in here with the Silent Hill: The Short Message, which does need to be praised, and what it does well, it really excels at, but we do need to point out its many shortcomings, which is not only entertaining, but also important feedback for Konami for future Silent Hill games.
Maya?
Let's begin. After an opening monologue about how the strongest animals don't form groups and instead opt to be lone wolves, which is wildly untrue by the way, but whatever, go off, we start with Anita visiting a memorial site in the courtyard of an apartment complex. It's surrounded by a thick fog, typical, and she looks up to the roof and then utters the name Maya. We then see some visual glitch effect, Anita activates her Sharingan, and then suddenly we're in the first-person view. As Anita uses her phone to light the room around her, we can notice a black hole seemingly painted or marked on the wall in front of us. At that moment, we see that Maya has been texting Anita, saying that she wants to show us something and to come to the villa. Well, as we know from the synopsis of the game, this apartment complex is called the Villa in the town of Kettenstraat, a fictional place in Germany. But Anita was just outside that memorial and even said the name Maya, so we can assume that that was Maya's memorial shrine, which makes the fact she's texting us even more peculiar. Sadly though, the voice acting at this point already tells me this is going to be kind of a rough ride. It sounds like how anime gets dubbed to English. It's just really overly dramatic and insincere. It really doesn't help also that we're going to find out that Anita is just constantly sighing, moaning, or stating the bloody obvious.
This model. Is it this building?
We come across some graffiti of a man seemingly pulling apart jail bars with a sunny blue sky on the other side of them. There are some numbers etched and freedom written at the bottom. To the left of the artwork, we see an article. It states that young people in their 20s have been leaving the town in droves and it's causing concern. There's a plan to rebuild the town back to its once thriving state with the help of some Chinese investors. There is note of some Japanese corporation buildings having been abandoned for a while and now being repurposed to cut the cost of starting new developments. A few paces on, we can read a newspaper clipping detailing that plans to rebuild Kettenstraat were hindered by the COVID-19 pandemic, which scared away the foreign investors. Already it's kind of weird to me that they would use a real-world event in a fictional story in a fictional town, but maybe there's another meaning for this. Maybe Konami wanted to use Kettenstraat as a metaphor for the Silent Hill brand, that it used to be thriving, but since the late 2000s it's been kind of a sinking ship. COVID-19 stopping what was meant to be a comeback for the series, as there were lots of rumours for years around that time that Silent Hill was supposed to be coming back. They were likely looking for skilled experts in the area to help, since they'd been out of the big-budget game scene for a while. I could just be reaching here, we've only just started, so let's move on. Anita lets us know what she thinks of adults.
Everyone's losing their futures. That's all adults are. A slave to the system.
We continue on through the door that's creaked itself open in front of us and move out into the hall. This place looks really run down, and I don't know about you guys, but derelict buildings like these, in the state that this one is in, really give me the heebie-jeebies. After some rooting around, Anita shows us she's in the running for Emo of the Year.
I'm trapped. I've always been trapped.
After we calm down from that little zinger from Anita, we go to room 202. Just ahead, we come across some graffiti art depicting cherry blossoms growing behind a woman smiling with her eyes closed. Anita notices it's signed by none other than Maya herself with her custom CB signature, which stands for cherry blossom, as if we couldn't work that one out. Anita takes this time to gush.
She's amazing.
And then we get treated to something new to the series, live action cutscenes.
The city's a blank canvas, begging for us to paint it with our hopes and dreams.
Now, I don't know if I'm alone here, but I really don't like this. It worked in Alan Wake 2 because Remedy are some bizarre, eccentric artists and somehow made it all feel connected. But here it kind of feels like fanfic. It pulls you out of the game in a way that doesn't really make sense. Why couldn't these scenes be with in-game renders? Like, what was actually the purpose of making these live action? Like, what did it add? It really doesn't help that Maya is played by Haruka Sakaguchi, who has clearly recorded these parts in Japanese. The lip syncing is so bad that it breaks immersion. Well, at least for me it did. I would rather have just heard it in Japanese and read the subtitles, but maybe that's just a pet peeve of mine, I don't know. This does extend to the whole game too. It's clearly been synced to the Japanese language, so all of the voices in the games don't feel like they're genuinely coming from anyone's mouths. They're all kind of out of time. Haruka-san probably acted these parts quite well, but that melodramatic dub takes away what could have been an interesting moment into Maya's mind and worldview, and just makes it cringe. And I'm sorry to use that word because I know a lot of you criticize me for it in my other videos in the comments, but I feel like this time is justified. It's cringe. Anyway, Maya explains that she wants to show the hidden side of girls with her art, and then asks us,
What are you hiding inside?
and here we have the start of Silent Hill 2 creeping once again back into anything new the series can come up with since Team Silent were disbanded. Let me guess, Anita is hiding something or choosing to forget something that will become a pivotal plot point later on. Flashback over, and Anita takes a moment to put herself down.
How could I ever be proud of myself?
We turn our back to Maya's art and notice a magazine article left out on a tabletop. It notes that graffiti artists are using the villa as a place to display their work, almost like a museum. It tells us that CB, aka Maya, is a social media star. The publisher had reached out to Maya for comment, and she told them, "All I'm doing is showing what these girls really feel like on the inside but can't show on the outside. If any of them connect with a girl in the art, it's probably because they're experiencing the same thing." It goes on to note that Maya says the flowers she depicts on the young girls she paints bloom out of the scars they bear. The flowers represent the girls overcoming past trauma, or at least their desire to get over the past trauma. Anita lets us know how much she looks up to Maya and how little she thinks of herself when she says,
Everyone can see how talented she is. I couldn't be more different.
We're then off to some more walking, really slowly, when we see a door down a long corridor creep open whilst simultaneously receiving a text from a new character, Amelie. Apparently we had been spam texting her prior to starting the game, saying that we hadn't seen her at work. We ask if she's been taking her medication, but she hadn't replied. She was apparently sleeping and only just saw the messages. The background photo seems to show Amelie and Anita shoulder to shoulder. They both wear glasses and have similar hair, the difference being that Amelie seems to show more of her face, while Anita seems to like to hide behind her fringe more. Both are smiling, though Anita's smile looks more nervous while Amelie exudes confidence. I personally wouldn't have taken that specific time to read messages on my phone if a door just creaked itself open in this terrifying place, but Anita is a special breed. We mindlessly walk towards the now open door and enter a room full of sticky notes covering the walls, each of them containing rather mild insults or put-downs scribbled on them. The angry, echoey voice reading some of them out to us takes away the impact of what could have been an anxiety-raising scene.
What's with this place? Why all the sticky notes?
Loser! Stupid! Liar! Crazy! Crybaby! Ugly! I hate you, dumb! Go away!
As Akira Yamaoka's sound design is swelling in the background, and the cinematography builds tension with panicky handheld style footage or isolating zoom out shots of Anita surrounded by these sticky notes. I think the scene would have hit home more if there was just like no voiceover whatsoever and we could use our own two human eyes to see the notes written on the walls. Anita, though, seems to know who these notes were written by when she says,
She never said anything nice.
We then read an article that's kindly left out for us, and to leave no room for the imagination, stating that child AB cases in their region of Germany was double that of other comparable nations in Europe. Then in a second breath, Anita says,
My mom loved me.
So there we have it. That was Anita's mother yelling and putting her down, and Anita's in denial. Alright? Case closed, everyone. We push through the Museum of Cusses and find a bed with pills left out on a bedside table. Anita recognizes them as antidepressants and says she's taken enough of them. She's full. Not even room for a wafer-thin antidepressant mint.
It's only a wafer thin.
So we already have the recurring themes of depression, anxiety, obsession, and denial. Let's read on. The next self-opening door leads us to a room which kind of looks familiar. The bathroom, complete with the bloody bathtub. And I'm sure we all expected to see a weird fetus in the sink, but no, this is nothing like that game, okay? This is a completely original and separate experience. Cockroaches can be in games. Anita then shows off that she's been self-harming with her terribly acted mother's voice in her ear telling her it's all her fault.
This is all your fault! Bad things happen because of you!
Anita says she's sorry and plunges the razor into her wrist as we fade to black. This appears to be a flashback to Anita's past, and reliving it brings Anita to her knees. The way she says mum here is really actually quite convincing, and it sells the grief adequately in my opinion.
Mom.
We GTFO from the bathroom and in come some replies from Amelie. Anita and Amelie exchange caring messages to each other about therapy and meds. Amelie mentions that some of their classmates were hospitalized and shows worry about Anita dealing with things on her own, without seeking help. Anita says her classmates deserved to be hospitalized. Something has obviously gone down here, and Anita seems pretty aggressive towards it. Considering her self-conscious nature, this must have been big. She shoots down the idea of therapy, stating that she doesn't like talking to adults as it doesn't seem to help her. And she's probably right in a way. When I was young, many moons ago, I had a lot of angst as a teenager. I'm sure most of us did. Talking to adults at the best of times felt like talking to like a different species, so I can kind of see what they were getting at, but honestly, this doesn't feel like a real conversation two teens would be having like this. But then I was never a teenage girl, so maybe my experience would have been different had I had that second X chromosome. We attempt to leave back through sticky note hell when suddenly we're face to face with this game's version of Pyramid Head. Because let's face it, that's basically what it is. A grotesque monster with a head made of cherry blossoms wearing the jumper that Maya was wearing in that flashback from before starts pegging it towards us. With animation that's deliberately low in frame rate, it creates a sort of stop motion effect, which I've always said is a great format to use for horror. Just look at anything made by Jan Schwankmeyer, that shit is infinitely disturbing and it makes the viewer so uncomfortable. It's great stuff. YouTube it if you're unfamiliar. Here though, the way this creature actually moves kind of made me laugh when I first saw it. I don't know if it's because it just looks ridiculous or because I wasn't expecting it to move so fast. But don't get me wrong, I don't think it's a bad design, it just caught me off guard. After the chase scene through the claustrophobic chain-linked corridors, we enter a room and slam the door shut behind us. I don't know why Anita thought that this was enough of a run, that thing still isn't right on her ass, but again, Anita's a special breed. At this moment, Maya blows up our phone asking if we're here yet, and for Anita to come to the studio, where Maya is apparently texting from, wherever the hell that is in this shithole. Another document by way of newspaper clipping is left out on the table of this new room we find ourselves in. It tells us the story of teenage suey being quite the popular thing amongst teenage girls here, how they would jump from the roof to their deaths. It mentions that the building has been abandoned for a while, but graffiti artists have been breaking in and using it to paint their works. Anita, after reading this, says,
Please, not Maya too. She has been acting weird lately.
So once again, we don't really need to think, as Anita will just spell it out for you. After some snooting around, we discover another one of Maya's art pieces, another young woman with cherry blossoms behind her. Another live-action scene plays where Maya explains that unlike other flowers, cherry blossoms bloom beautiful and they fall beautiful. They don't rot and wilt away. She says that that's how she wants her life to be, which I would have thought would have been a big old fat red flag if one of my friends said something like that. But as we already know what happened with Maya from Anita's spoken thoughts earlier, I guess it's a bit late for red flags. Anita gets mad that Maya left her on red and states that she needs to get a bloody move on now and find her. Despite the urgency of that statement, we continue to walk around at a snail's pace, taking in the scenery. Anita remarks as we look out from a balcony into the dilapidated courtyard that she recognizes the famous suey spot. This all might seem really indulgent on the whole taking one's own life theme, but given this was written by a Japanese writer, it speaks more to the Japanese culture, where suey rates amongst kids is alarmingly higher than Western countries. I won't get too much into it here, it's not really a very nice topic when you see the reality of it, but just know that this sort of story is probably more relatable to Japanese teens than it would be for Western ones, because of the culture surrounding it being more familiar to them. A few moments later, we come across yet another document, this time a report on the effects that social media has on young people. It talks about how these kids who were studied had posted selfies online and were ashamed of themselves. They were even more butthurt when those selfies didn't get thousands of likes and shares. They all had low self-esteem and were really receptive to positive attention. They were all seeking validation of some kind. This obviously drawing parallels to real life, where I do think social media can be a vacuous and depressive place that festers and breeds negative self-image. Always comparing with somebody else, what they have and what you don't. While I hope we all know it's mostly fake, we can't help the feelings of jealousy sometimes when we aren't happy in our own lives. I can only imagine though, as a teenager in today's world, that I would relate to this struggle more. Wandering around looking for clues as to where the hell we need to go next, Amelie starts replying to us on our phone. She tries to advise Anita to consider going to university. That's college for my wonderful USA viewers. Anita isn't playing ball though, and says that studying isn't really her vibe, and more so that she doubts herself, stating that she can't do anything. Amelie lets us know that Anita is also somewhat of an artist, just like Maya, and suggests that we order an art class which could lead to career prospects. Anita claps back with a full caps reply. Bit rude. Another live action scene shows how, although Maya's work might have been adored by people online, her classmates bitch about her behind her back, and people don't consider graffiti as real art. She says she thinks leaving town would be good for her, as the world is her canvas oyster due to the nature of graffiti. She looks at the camera and says,
And as long as I'm with you, I can have fun anywhere.
Is she speaking to Anita or Amelie here? We then find what Anita assumes to be Maya's studio as it holds her CB tag on the door, discovering some of her early sketches of cherry blossom trees. But then Maya messages back with, "Are you here?" seemingly ignoring Anita's attempts at warning her of the danger lurking the halls of the villa. When Anita gets left on red here, she starts to panic, and we get a really cool use of the Hitchcock zoom.
Where are you? Am I going crazy?
We turn around to witness a fabric cover fall down, exposing another one of Maya's art pieces. As it seems unfinished, Anita checks to see if this particular piece made it onto Maya's social media account. Noticing that Maya was absolutely popping off, getting more followers, she pops over to her own social media page to check the analytics there, and oh boy, time for another Eeyore impression.
I lost followers again.
But then she sees that her felt cute might delete later selfies are getting more attention than her artwork, which, if she took the time to develop further, I think people would actually react a bit more positively about. Maya was posting completed pieces, and Anita seemed to just post rough sketches, unless that was her style. Anita doesn't let the player put two and two together and just outright says,
I need to upload stuff like this to get as many likes as Maya.
Again, this game is far too blatant when it's trying to convey a message to the player. I feel like most people would be able to discern that she was desperate for likes, and so she was spam posting posy selfies to farm the simps. We then have the narrative spoon-fed to us again, with the sarcastic voices of her comment section being read out with some really lackluster voice work.
Sexy. Loving it.
Stop with the boring photos already. No sexy stuff, no followers. Wow, you hate your followers? Congrats on reaching your follower goal. Come on, we want sexy stuff already. Just stop, please!
Just when Anita is once again brought to her knees with despair, Amelie calls us to apologize for giving valid advice. I don't know, listen.
I'm sorry. You have your own situation to deal with. I was out of line. I was thinking selfishly. I'm so sorry.
It's at this moment she drops the bombshell that Maya is in fact in the Shadow Realm already.
I guess I haven't accepted Maya's death yet.
Huh?
Why did she jump from the villa? Why did she have to die?
She had jumped from the roof of the villa just like the article we read earlier told us. Anita has clearly not been able to accept that news, as she seems as though she's hearing it for the first time here. But Anita definitely knew about Maya's untimely death because of that scene at the beginning when she was visiting her memorial shrine. Regardless, this makes Anita very aware that whoever's been texting her from Maya's phone can't really be Maya at all, and then we waddle off to stage left. The visual glitches are back, and that's our cue to run like a bitch because old mate Sucker Ahead is back, and this time far too close for comfort. We make our way through the maze of corridors while steel gates slam down around us, finally reaching a staircase, and the welcome respite of a cutscene saves us from a fucking panic attack. Out on the roof, we see another one of Maya's art pieces. This one showing girls with wings made from cherry blossom branches flying up towards the sky, symbolizing their escape from the land of the living. Maya considers this one to be her masterpiece, which is a pretty worrying red flag when you consider that she only paints young girls who have trauma, and this one is showing them essentially leaving life behind. Anita's thirst for online clout has reached breaking point as she attempts to join Maya in the afterlife, the same way she went, by jumping from the roof.
This is where Maya jumped from.
Bad things happen because of you!
Maybe I can be like her. Here goes.
We fade to black and see our phone with a now shattered screen before a public service announcement is made, advising anyone feeling the way these characters are to seek help, or to help those around you who you might notice aren't feeling well. While this is definitely a positive message, as someone who's dealt with mental health since I was a teenager, I do feel like this part immediately rips the player out of the immersion of playing a video game. I mean, I'm sure they kind of almost have to show these slides because in today's climate, talking about these topics without adding this would probably cause really unwanted backlash for Konami. It's just a shame that people can't just separate real life from like fictional video games. Anyway, that's the end of the demo. Or is it? It wasn't. Anita wakes up back at the villa because yes, we're doing the whole looping thing and it's a completely separate and unique experience, okay? Stop comparing it to that game. As we stand up, a nice nod at Silent Hill 4 can be seen on the wall in front of us when we get up. The hole from before has gotten much larger now with what looks like blood spilling out from the bottom. This could also be a reference to Silent Hill 2's famous "there was a hole here, it's gone now" quote, but to me this looks more like a Henry hole than a James hole, if you catch my drift. Maya starts to text us back, and at this point she's not even going to pretend she's real anymore, saying only "can't leave till you find it." But the "it" is something that we still need to work out. Once again, we're back to walking incredibly slowly through the rooms of the villa, even spotting a swinging light that is in no way copied from that game. Remember, this is a completely unique experience. We come across some red text on a fridge freezer door. Reading it lets us know another one of Anita's mum's cruel punishments, suggesting that when Anita was bad, she would get starved. Pretty gross, and this mother of hers should definitely be locked up for the shit she's pulled. Only around the corner until we get another headachy vision of her saying her now famous catchphrase, God, that voice work is cringe. Soon after, we find the first one of Maya's art pieces again. This time though, it's been defaced with some C-grade insults sprayed all over it. A few rooms later, we come across this high school scarecrow looking thing again. Pretty weird, but we'll ignore that for now because over to the right is another article to read. This one again giving us basically more backstory as it relates to Anita and also Maya. It indicates that these girls would create made-up stories around themselves to justify their awful predicaments, or needing something to distance themselves from having to face the cruel and cold reality of their situations. It mentions one girl who viewed herself as a tragic hero with an incredibly abusive stepmother, that she had a real mother somewhere else who actually loved her. This piece is rather curious, but we will revisit this later for theorizing. We find another one of Maya's art pieces that's been disgraced. Anita then checks Maya's social media page to find that Maya too would receive a lot of shitty comments on her work. Apparently hatred wasn't exclusive to Anita's comments section. Shocker, huh? A lot of these people commenting are essentially anime profile pic people on Twitter. We all know the type, the ones who have a lot of harsh opinions to give about stuff while hiding behind illustrated avatars. After we finish reading through the hater mob, we turn around to find that the high school scarecrows have multiplied, and we can hear the echoes of their sniggering and jeering. Awkwardly shuffling past them and back across the balcony overlooking Maya's landing spot, we get some familiar messages from Amelie, but this time, armed with the knowledge that Maya isn't among the living anymore, Anita takes the initiative to break the cycle from being a complete retread of what we've already been through. And there we have the next stage of intrigue. These girls are so open with each other about their mental struggles, their medication, therapy and whatnot. Then why did Maya not say anything about the darkness she was feeling? We already know that she went to the tragic extreme of her own life, so why didn't her two best friends get a chance to realize, step in and save her? Live action Maya shows more and more of her unhealthy obsession with young people offing themselves, as she's seen speaking to presumably Anita about a book she's lent her, whose author self-deleted when they were young. She mentions that they were sharing letters when Anita may have shown her more vulnerable side. So, letters was the takeaway here. We continue trenching forward until we come across another fridge with Anita's mother's words read out to us. I really feel like letting Akira Yamaoka's soundtrack and our own reading voice do the work here would have made these moments far more potent. The dub is just like the others, it's borderline unbearable.
If you want food, do what I say.
Right next to the fridge on the table, we get another article to browse, this one speaking of the Japanese cultural tradition of harakiri. Something we know that the samurai would do when they were defeated. Dying by their own blade was atonement and a way of taking back some honor. Also, it takes a certain type of either crazy or psychological fortitude to be able to thrust your sword into your own guts. It's pretty messy stuff. But the article points out that Westerners often confuse this for, in their words, yearning for a beautiful way to die. I'm not sure a sword to the stomach is a particularly beautiful way to die, but let's read on. The article goes on to say that modern Japanese people don't view their own lives the same way anymore. Now their death is needed to protect their social life over their biological life. This had me kind of scratching my head, but my best guess here is that, for a start, it's been translated to English, so therefore it might have lost some of its intention, but that social status is being seen as more important to modern Japanese young people, and so it's kind of like dying while you're ahead, or to avoid seeing yourself becoming forgotten while you're still living. Not long after, we come across a small shrine. Viewing it triggers another delightful live-action scene of Maya, this time sitting in a classroom setting, explaining that she believes in fortune-telling while overlooking some classmates using tarot cards. Maya tells us that her great-grandmother was seen as some sort of fortune-telling prophet in the area, but people eventually turned on her for some reason. And again, this will be important later. To the left of the shrine is a book detailing the Japanese and German entrepreneurs of the 1930s collabing to exchange culture, which apparently resulted in the belief of witches. The book titled The Witch of Kettenstradt. After that riveting tale, we stop by the tarot cards on a console table, and Anita can't help but neg herself one more time.
No point predicting my future.
We stop by the trash room where, what do you know it, there's a bunch of trash in here. But reading a note on the floor at the back of the room tells us that somebody obviously doesn't like Maya very much. This is all your fault, everything. You're a heartless bitch. You stole my only friend, my place in this world, all of it. You don't even care. I'm invisible to you. I effing hate you. It goes on to say this person doesn't think Maya is very talented and that she should get out of their lives. It stinks of jealousy. Stinks worse than this trash room. We tiptoe around looking for something to interact with when we come across an advert for the college Amelie is apparently going to be studying at. Then, almost like her ears were burning, we get some incoming text messages from Amelie. She's doing another friendly checkup on Anita, who is pretty dismissive of all of her attempts to engage her. Curiously though, Amelie mentions her brother is visiting soon. She asked if Anita would come shopping with her to get her out the house and to avoid her brother. Some contention is obvious, but still Anita just puts herself down and feels too self-conscious to agree to going. As we lower the phone, the next area greets us with a creepypasta flashback with a poster of Jeff the Killer on the wall. God knows why they chose to put this on there, but it's pretty funny. We flick through a few diary notes from a girl studying hard to get to college. We can assume that this is now Amelie's story that we're reading here. Not too much to these, except a passage about her brother staring at her in a weird way, making her nervous about men looking at her. She doesn't want to wear any revealing clothing because I guess bro was gawking at her. It's implied that there was some kind of foul play that happened too. It's pretty disgusting. More reading of Amelie's diary entries tells us that there is some trouble with her parents. They are going bankrupt and breaking apart. She's worried that she'll not be able to go to college after all and be stuck with her pervy bro lurking about the home. Finally, we read a newspaper article detailing another death of a young girl who couldn't bear to not be able to go to college because of family troubles and had jumped from the roof of the villa, just like Maya and Anita did. But Amelie isn't dead, is she?
Amelie's not like this, though. Right?
Anita doesn't think so. We push on through these filthy rooms until we see a door open ahead of us. We walk through and are transported to the halls of a high school, where ghost-like entities of her school peers throw things at Anita and call out some pretty low-quality insults. And by the way, these are clearly American-looking high school depictions we're seeing here. I mean, this is set in Germany, and I imagine the Japanese developers just kind of overlooked this detail, as I can't see a reason, metaphorically at least, for it to appear like an American high school. European secondary schools look nothing like this, just for the record. We make our way to Anita's locker and we see that it's got shit written all over it. In white text it reads, Witch's Locker. So wait, this isn't Anita's locker, this must be Maya's locker. We are seeing a day in the life of Maya here. People call us a slut, tell us our art is shit and shove us to the floor, and suddenly we're back in the villa. Or a janitor's closet. Either way, Anita ain't taking this shit no more and she barges back in. Everything starts to distort as we walk through the trope of a twisting hallway, but this bit is rendered rather well though, so we'll let it off. When we reach the end of the corridor, we trigger another chase scene. This time, the sticky notes on the walls are animated blinking eyes, and just like that, the heat is on and we gotta find a way out of here. After solving the chase scene labyrinth, Maya pops up on the phone again. It's funny how she's always texting after Sakura Head chases us, huh? She's still asking us to find it. Soon after, we face yet another live action scene. This one shows us that there was more to these girls' friendship than Anita led us to believe. Maya seems rather fond of Amelie, but there was a male set of shoes in this scene. Anita wasn't present here, so how does she have any memory of it? Now Maya's painting on the wall appears to depict Amelie as the girl standing in front of the cherry blossoms. We need to uncover exactly what happened between these girls. It's getting bloody confusing. We then find ourselves transported back to the school, this time in the library, where we trigger another flashback of Maya. She sat at a school desk staring at the bullying that she's been suffering. As much as there were people who loved Maya and her art, there were a lot of people who wanted to tear her down, it would seem. She tells us that she's left us an important letter after handing back a book. Who is she talking to here? With Maya gone, we're left to search for clues. We find another mention of this witch from the 1930s, who, according to this article, seemed to have cursed the area right before she was hunted down and killed for being related to the occult. Since her death, this fictional area of Germany has suffered economically, and the population was declining, with birth rates on the negative trend and miscarriages becoming more and more frequent. Anita checks with the ominous text message version of Maya to see if this is what she wanted us to find. Apparently not, so we're back on our mission. Searching the library further, we come across another passage about this Japanese witch, this time detailing her death. She was in hospital with an unknown illness when she heard about fires that destroyed some of the factories that she'd helped the entrepreneurs set up. It was the straw that broke the camel's back. She jumped from the roof of the hospital and took her own life. Apparently, the locals believe that the mayor of the area had manufactured the fires, which he knew would cause people to turn on the witch. He didn't like how much influence she had and wanted her out of the picture. Everyone now blames anything negative that happens in the town on the witch's curse. We notice a gap in a series of books with one of the volumes missing on one of the shelves, and Anita starts to be able to remember things. She has a vision of the missing book in her locker, and we head back to find it. Live-action Maya is then seen slumped in a stairwell with sticky notes posted everywhere. She's looking pretty rough, and she hints that she's had to move schools already before due to the harassment she's faced in the past. Amelie checks in with us, and Anita talks about the bullying Maya was getting. Anita knows something here, and we need to get to the bottom of this shit. We get back to the lockers and we search for the book and find it, but this is Amelie's locker, so how did Anita know it was in here? She has a vision of the letter that's in her locker. This must be the letter from Maya containing her thoughts right before she died. Heading to our locker, it's locked and we need to find the code. The word liar is written on the desk with coloured letters. A quick search around us, we can see numbers painted into the environment. Piecing them together using the colours to know which number goes where first, the code is 312. The same number as the hotel room in Silent Hill 2 where James has his shocking realisation. Coincidence? We open the locker and read the note.
Remember when I said I wanted to live like a cherry blossom? To be beautiful and dignified for a fleeting moment, simply by letting go of life. Daring to bloom, knowing it won't last. And so falling in vivid color. I wish I could live like that. I want to experience true beauty, if only for a moment. I met someone who made me feel different. He showed me a whole new world, gave me hope. I honestly thought he could help me find a new me. I felt it with all my heart. But people didn't understand us. Didn't want that from us. In the end, they took my hope from me. They took him away. People who can't achieve beauty seek comfort in others. They fear anyone different, hate them, try to tear them down. I can't take much more of this. I wish you and I could run away together, Amelie. Just me and you.
Maya, you have everything. You're way more talented than me. So, why? Why take Amelie from me? You acted like I wasn't even there. Amelie is my friend. She's mine!
So now we have the broader context to Maya's death. Anita was jealous that Maya seemed to favour Amelie's friendship over hers, and so she kept the letter that was a cry for help. Maya felt lost after her new boyfriend, who we can guess was the male in the flashback from before with Amelie, couldn't stand the hate campaign and left her. Everything just became too much for Maya. Couple that with her unhealthy obsession with the idea of dying young and beautiful, this was definitely not the kind of letter to be holding back from its intended recipient. Anita is brought to her knees again in tears with the realization of what's just happened. She feels responsible for the death of Maya, and to distance herself from the truth, chose to ignore the detail of having hid this letter, or even her being dead to begin with. We leave the school setting now that we're armed with all the knowledge we need to break the loop, and wouldn't you know, our old mate Sakura Head is back on our ass. During this chase scene, that we can see the walls are now plastered with pictures of Maya and Amelie, seemingly taunting Anita. We make our way back to the roof where Anita needs to get something off of her chest to Amelie.
Anita, what's up?
I'm so sorry, Amelie. Maya died because I killed her.
What are you talking about?
Once again, Anita attempts to end it all, and we're shown that PSA again from Konami. Activating Sharingan once more, we wake up back in the villa. As Anita searches the space around her, we can see her own lifeless body laying on the ground next to us. Shit is really ramping up now. The hole on the wall in front of us is even larger and more foreboding now, with blood spilling from the center. Just up ahead, we find a couple of pages from Maya's diary. She's talking about visiting the roof of the villa, looking down at the popular teen landing spot, and imagining what was going through their minds at the time. She wonders if they were jumping from something or to something. Back on the path ahead, Anita relives one of her mother's cruel memories when she sees one of the quotes on the fridge freezer door again.
Don't you dare go outside!
Super cringy voice work, my god. Down the hallway ahead, we notice some text on the chain link fence panels blocking the various paths. They read no hope, no future, and no exit. At the end of the hallway, interacting with the newspaper on the pile of trash, we get one of the more curious parts of this game, the Silent Hill phenomenon. It details that the SUI rates have increased around the world, something that's been recorded to be happening more since the COVID-19 pandemic. It goes on to say that something strange has been happening to individuals in different areas. Those affected would claim to see fog, even on sunny days, and then lose consciousness soon after. This has come to be known as the Silent Hill phenomenon, named after, well, obviously we know what it's named after. Apparently a Dr. XXX, who is a social psychologist at the XXX University, which don't Google by the way, you won't find anything Silent Hill related, I'm sure. But this Dr. XXX had this to say: to one who is psychologically unstable, fog represents uncertainty and sensory illusions. When in a state of high stress, one's vision may become obscured or tunneled, as if one is wandering through a dense fog or mist. Societal uncertainty of apprehension about the future manifests as fog, thus blurring the lines between illusion and reality. It goes on to say more and more of these cases are being observed. This mysterious Dr. XXX calls for people to focus on counselling and mental health care to mitigate the issue. This is basically the only tie-in to the franchise as a whole that this game has. Besides the callbacks to the other games, this is what the short message attempts to sow into the greater lore of the series. The only available path leads us to an apartment distinctly cleaner than the villa. Anita states that it was the apartment that her and her mother had lived in. I can see this bit getting dark, Jesus. We see a book open on one of the tables. Reading it tells us it's the diary of a single mother. It seems as though it's Anita's mother writing, who had been left by her husband. The way it's worded, "I finally lost touch with him," leads us to believe that it was a long-winded separation, likely a messy one. But she notes that she still has her cute little angels, in her words, referring to her kids. Through the open door ahead, it appears that we've looped back around to the same room, but this time it's kind of a mess. There are takeaway boxes and bottles all over the place. It's proper rank. Examining a pizza box, we hear some more of Anita's mother's outbursts.
Why won't you listen to a damn thing I say?
Reading the next portion of her diary, we learn that Anita's mother had found a new boyfriend. He brought pizza to the house for the family, but the kids were not into the idea of a strange new man around and were being off with him. Anita's mother hopes that it hasn't scared him off. The next page tells us that Anita had drawn a picture of their family, but had not included the new boyfriend. Anita's mum was upset by this, and she thinks that Anita might not realise that he could be joining the family at some point. She adds that Anita is slower than other kids her age, but she's confident with her parenting and that she won't end up anything like her own mother, who filled her with hate and fear growing up. We close the diary and go back through the door ahead. Although this time it didn't loop around, we're in a bedroom with more of Anita's mother's diary to consume. This time she says her boyfriend brought pizza round again, but Anita hated it. Apparently she's a fussy eater. But she says she should probably teach her to eat things she doesn't like, as she was forced to do that as a child too. I thought she was trying not to be like her mother. The next entry details an incident where the kids, Anita and her sibling, caused a scene in front of the new boyfriend. He was exhausted from work and he just wanted to relax with them. Anita's mother starts sounding a little obsessive now when she writes that she needs him there for the happy life, and maybe if the kids didn't see the light for a while, they would see the light in him. The next page gets even darker when her mother has locked the kids in the cupboard to get them out the way and starve them of light. Their banging on the closet door was upsetting the new boyfriend, who couldn't relax with that bloody racket going on. Really though, the fact that he was even trying to unwind while that shit was going on shows what kind of a scumbag he was. This ain't Matilda, alright? You can't just be chucking kids in the chokey willy-nilly. Anita's mum worries if she can't figure something out soon, he might never come back. Examining a drawing left on the floor, we hear Anita's mother again.
I'm giving up my life for you!
Leaving the bedroom behind, we find ourselves looped back around to the living room again. This time we're at hoarder levels of gross. Trash bags are piled up in the bathroom with insects buzzing around them can be seen blocking the entry. Seriously, you can smell this scene. More litter and grime is scattered around the TV area, and the next chapter in Mama's diary is waiting to be read. Oh, we just know it's going to get worse, don't we? This time it seems Anita's mum's solution to the having kids problem was to just leave them at home locked away while she went out on dates. Such disgusting behaviour that even the new boyfriend was concerned. Took his bloody time. He'd even gifted the kids books and toys to keep them busy while their mum abandoned them for some D. She mentions she's left the place in such a shit state lately, but by the time she comes back from her dates, she's just shagged out and has no energy to clean. Well, I hope she did all of her pee-pees and cacas while she was out, because there ain't no way you're getting into that bathroom. I guess at this stage you could just curl one out on the living room floor and it wouldn't really matter. The next page of the diary, and finally the child welfare have been called by a concerned neighbour. Anita's mum is quite pissed off by this. Not only has the new boyfriend started to distance himself, but she's seeing everyone enjoying life while she has the burden to raise kids by herself. We flick the page and shit takes a really dark turn. Anita's mother says she's resenting having kids. If it wasn't for them, she could be planning a vacation with her friends. Says that she's just crawling through life and nothing matters anymore. Then the shocking line, "I know what's going on in the closet, but I can't look." As we approach the fridge, it's rattling around and we can hear the desperate cries of a baby seemingly trapped inside. The cries ring out and follow us to the bedroom, where Anita finds a note from the social services. It says that they're actively instructed to take the kids away from Anita's mother. She hasn't been responding to their checkups or requests, but if she has any objection to the matter, she needs to contact them immediately. Through the next door, we enter a new room, appearing to be the bedroom of the kids. Toys and bottles are buried amongst trash bags, much like the bathroom scene from before. Truly revolting stuff. But to the right, in the closet, we see that black hole on the wall, much like the one from the villa, with a newspaper clipping on what looks to be either a dog's bed or a tiny mattress on the floor. The paper informs us that a boy was found dead in the refrigerator of a 41-year-old mother's home. She had locked him in the closet for longer than a day as punishment, but when she went back to check on him, he was lifeless. Without calling for help, she attempted to hide the body in the refrigerator. Anita at this point had broken out of the house to run to a neighbour for help. They called the police, who came and arrested Anita's mother. Really dark stuff here. It makes it really hard not to forgive Anita a little bit for being such a defeatist all the time. Turning around, we relive a moment from Anita's past where she was locked in the closet. And thank God that R. Kelly's in prison, right? Because if he was in here, he'd turn it into a right shit show. We hear more yelling from Anita's mother about how her mother cursed her womb and she gave it life by giving birth to Anita. This whole scene is some really heavy stuff. I just wish the voice acting wasn't so bad. The script could be tighter, but the voice acting just sounds so cringy. It's hard to take any of this seriously. As written text though, this whole scenario is horrifying. Anita was locked in the closet next to her dead brother until she managed to get out and call for help. Her mother calls her a curse and blames everything on her. As a child, this would certainly do irreparable damage to their mental well-being. We walk back through the apartment, noticing a baby doll is now in the fridge freezer, real classy. But now we know why all those messages from Anita's mother were written on the fridges throughout the game. When we arrive back at the front door, it's time for the burnt orange tones to return to Silent Hill because Sakura Head is back, and this time the intensity is cranked up high. And now we don't just need to run away, this time we need to collect 5 pictures of memories that Anita needed reminding of. On her phone, we can see another callback to Silent Hill 4 with the chains locking up a door. This time it's not apartment 302, it's Maya's studio with the CB signature on the door. Each time we find a photo, a chain breaks from the door on the phone, meaning by the time that we reach the studio, we need all those locks off so we can get the hell out of Dodge. This scene is quite annoying. You need to basically memorize the path through trial and error. You'll end up seeing this a lot of times here. Interestingly too, Anita calls out "Mum, let me out" during this chase scene, which makes me think that the manifestation chasing her isn't just Maya, or rather the guilt of what she thinks she did to Maya, but also her mother's burning rage that's making it so aggressive. Maya might have had a witch grandmother who cursed the town, but Maya herself didn't seem like she had this kind of hatred in her. That's why this monster could have such a beautiful flower all over its body, but have Anita's mother's murderous rage fueling it. Sprinkle in some of Anita's crippling insecurities, and we can be sure that this monster has plenty of inspiration to torment her. The issue as well, and this is a really careful thing that horror games have to balance, is that your fear of a threat chasing you is exactly that, the chase. What are they going to do to you when they catch you? But once you've been caught and you return to a checkpoint, you're no longer scared of the thing that's chasing you. It just turns into the tedious result of you not figuring out the path the game needs you to take. You always want to make the player feel like they just made it each time to keep the flow of both gameplay and tension pulling and releasing when it needs to. But with the ending of the story seemingly so close in sight, it'd be real pussy of us to give up here, right? With all the pictures collected, the locks are off the studio door and we can finally reach our conclusion.
Am I gonna be alone forever?
Entering the studio, it's much like it was in previous visits, but now we have a newspaper article to read. This one detailing the time of Maya's death, which dawns on Anita that it happened 6 months ago, meaning that Anita had been wandering around these deserted apartments that whole time. I mean, what was she eating? Rats? Trash from the bags? At least now we know why her hair's greasy. Also, the paper says that investigators, knowing how much shit Maya was getting online, aren't ruling out foul play and are launching a full investigation. As Anita wishes that Maya would just let her die, we hear something hit the ground behind us. It's Maya's sketchbook. Flicking back through it, we find that Maya had actually sketched a drawing of Anita. Why was this slide missing back when we checked it before? Anita realizes that Maya did in fact notice her, unlike what she's been saying to us this whole game. Leaving the studio, we see condensed scenes from Anita's past where she was actually happy.
I was so happy when my mom liked the first picture I drew.
But eventually having to decide on what to do about Amelie, we hit that cutscene stairwell one last time. So Anita tries to say sorry to Amelie one more time and tells her that she needs to apologize to Maya when she sees her real soon. Anita hangs up on Amelie and prepares yet another fall from the villa roof. This time, as she leans forward to fall, she gets distracted by Amelie messaging her to meet tomorrow and begs her not to leave her. This appears to blow the fog around her away, and now the sun is shining down for the first time in 6 months for Anita. She needed to forgive herself and accept the care from her friend Amelie for the Silent Hill phenomenon to end for her. The game is then wrapped up with a happy ending, so it seems. Now then, that was basically a surface level story about the importance of looking after your friends, how common mental health and trauma is for young people, and how ending their life early isn't the way to go. It's to build each other up and be aware that some people deal with things like bullying or self-loathing much harder than others. It shows that there's light after dark moral when the sun is shining down at the end after the fog has been blown away. How even when you're in complete darkness and seemingly alone, there is always a way out if you can accept help from people who care about you. Overall, I think the story has some pretty strong elements. The idea to use this real topic of young people getting into really low self-image problems due to bullying and social media is actually a pretty good area to delve into for a game like this. But a teenage girl story written by a timid middle-aged Japanese man, yes, this is the guy that wrote it, was probably one of the reasons why the interactions and monologues felt inauthentic. The voice work definitely didn't help either. The gameplay, intending to be essentially the PT that's available to play in 2024, really didn't move the needle either. It's nowhere near as haunting, curious, or smart as PT was, and I'm pretty sure everyone is burnt out with the hide-and-seek horror games nowadays. I really hope this isn't the route that Konami want to take with future Silent Hill games. We need some combat and some puzzles in there just to mix up the gameplay elements. One-hit game-over encounters with monsters is so dull and lazy too. It's not scary after you've been caught once or twice, as we went over earlier. Also, this might be a hot take, but I don't actually mind the Silent Hill phenomenon bit as much as some of you guys do. I know a lot of people want the series to return to the cult and be true to the original, and hey, even be set in Silent Hill maybe. But Silent Hill 3 and 4 are set in other locations and they worked fine. Yes, they were connected in some way to the overarching plot, but what even is the overarching plot anymore? It's so convoluted. I think we can still get great Silent Hill games that don't all have to be set in the town itself. It's up to the writing, the artwork, and the acting to draw us in and captivate us. I think Okamoto-san wants the series to be able to have options rather than having to revolve around the same cult idea while still keeping the hallmarks that the games are known for. Obviously the fog is one, but the dreamlike atmosphere, characters who are flawed trying to figure out mysteries, stories that delve into topics that aren't afraid to get darker than just gore. Honestly, I think if the purists are that pure, they're never going to enjoy something with Silent Hill in the box ever again. I still have hope that there will be a new good Silent Hill game. I'm looking at you, F. Anyways, we could go on about the negatives of the short message all day, which I'm sure we're all well aware of, but my review cliff notes would be, I guess, 1, the story would be better had it not been so heavily narrated by terrible voice work and left some of the stuff for the audience to figure out. 2, the graphics are gorgeous. 3, the gameplay should have been third person and have more to it than reading articles and walking slowly, but the fact that it was free to play was pretty cool. But I think there's something more Silent Hill-y going on with this title. Let's look at the seemingly blatant story of the short message, but through another lens. There are a lot of moments in this game that had me thinking. I don't think Amelie existed at all. I think Amelie and Anita are the same person. They are two sides of the same person. But rather, Amelie is the fake version that Anita made up to compensate for her extremely bleak worldview after a traumatic experience. I think that after witnessing her own brother die while they were locked in the closet together kind of sent her off the edge mentally. She invented Amelie shortly after as a coping strategy. Anita is jealous that Maya seems to be favoring Amelie over her, which would make sense because she's jealous that the fake version of herself is being picked over the real My Chemical Romance version. Maya is friends with Anita's mask, essentially. This is why Anita always claims that Maya doesn't see her, not that she doesn't like her. She also looks strikingly similar to Amelie, and they both have a brother that had something horrific happen and a troubled family dynamic with separated parents. The phone backgrounds for the girls when they're texting, Anita has a picture of Amelie and Maya as her text background with Maya. If she was so jealous of those two, why would she not have a photo of herself and Maya? Come to think of it, was there ever a photo of the three of them together in the entire game at all? In one of the newspaper articles, it states that the girl who couldn't go to college had jumped from the roof too. This sounded like Amelie. So was this a metaphor for Anita trying to kill off the positive side of herself who she had come to resent? As it's really easy to let darkness and negativity wash over you when you're in a bad state mentally. It's much harder to try and be positive and to start to improve your condition, something that Anita tries to avoid because of her incredibly low self-esteem. The drawings that Maya made of Amelie and Anita are both facing opposite directions. If you cut them and place them together, it's like a mirror image, meaning Maya did in fact see Anita. She understood her needing the Amelie side of her to be confident. Before, when Maya said she was surprised at Anita's letters, I think she was talking to Amelie here. Of course, Anita has memory of these moments because she is also Amelie. Maya being surprised by the contents of the letters was because she didn't expect Amelie to write with such vulnerability. I guess this is where Maya met Anita. There is a scene where Anita is crying about feeling like Maya was taking Amelie away from her. It shows a photograph with Amelie sitting next to Amelie. There is a tear in the middle and one of the Amelies is replaced by Maya. Shouldn't this be a picture of Anita and Amelie, where Anita was replaced by Maya? They are both on medication despite Amelie appearing like she's fine mentally. If we even break down the name Amelie, it almost could sound like Am-Ali, Am-Ali, as this version of Anita is fake. She was tormenting herself in her mind, feeling like no one knew the real her or liked her, choosing to hide behind this Amelie character. That, combined with the curse the Japanese witch had placed on the town, is why she was stuck in this never-ending loop in the villa. Coming to terms with that broke the cycle. She realized that Amelie is actually a part of her, and not just a facade, that Maya saw both of them and loved them equally. She could then forgive herself for feeling weak and learn to move past it. Just like Maya said before that she depicts girls who can move past their trauma, or at least try to. Dealing with anxiety and depression is something that never truly leaves us. People who also suffer with these things would agree that there is no curing it. We have to learn to live accepting that that is a side of ourselves. Being aware, being careful of, and addressing it is the only way to move forward with your life. Dwelling on the past and hiding is a never-ending rumination that only weighs you down. What did you guys think of the story and my theory of it? Do you think it had deeper meanings, or was it just as simple as it seemed? Please chuck a like on the video if you enjoyed it, guys. This one took me ages. It's the biggest video that I've made so far in my YouTube career. I almost didn't end up making it like a bunch of times. I had to go through my own like Silent Hill phenomenon just to get it done. But subscribe if you want to see more from me, and I'll see ya when I'm looking at you. See you later, legends. Love ya.